Anatomy of a crime, the case for systemic failure. On January 8, 2020, Ukrainian flight PS-752 was shot down by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps of Iran only 3 minutes after takeoff from the Tehran International Airport. Iranian government officials immediately declared that the crash was due to technical failure in the aircraft. For 3 days, Iranian state media followed the narrative dictated by top IRGC commanders who were denying any wrongdoing. The IRGC is a parallel military under the direct command of Iran's supreme leader. Only under international pressures, the Iranian government admitted to the actual cause of the downing of flight PS-752 that claimed the lives of 176 innocent civilians. Here is what we know so far. On January 3, 2020, the highest-ranking commander of the IRGC was killed in a U.S. attack just outside of the Baghdad International Airport. The Iranian government promised retaliation. On January 7, 2020, the Islamic Parliament of Iran passed a top-priority bill called Hard Revenge. The bill allocated $200 million to the IRGC for retaliatory action. Later that night, the IRGC dispatched a mobile surface-to-air battery to one of its key missile testing sites near the Tehran International Airport. At 1:20 on the morning of January 8th, the Iranian government launched rocket attacks on a U.S. military base near Baghdad. According to a Reuters report, the Iranian government warned Danish authorities 6 hours before their attack. All Iranian armed forces must have been in a state of high alert and readiness in anticipation of retaliation from the United States. In fact, the FAA is reported to have issued what is called a Notice to Airmen, or NOTAM, cautioning the civil aviation industry of air travel in the region. At 6:12 a.m., flight PS-752 took off after an unexplained 1-hour delay in its scheduled departure time. At 6:15, the first Tor M1 proximity detonation missile was fired at the aircraft. 25 seconds later, a second missile was fired that was the death blow for innocent passengers and crew. It took another 3 minutes for PS-752 to crash, leaving no survivors. Within a few hours, bulldozers were sent to clear the crash site. The victims' remains were removed with little or no forensic procedure. Ukrainian officials were denied permission to conduct their investigations. Having lost 85 citizens and permanent residents, Canada requested expert status to assist in the investigations. Iran never responded to the request, despite provisions in international regulations. The Iranian government withheld the black boxes for over 7 months. It was later revealed that even the recovered personal and professional belongings of the flight crew were not returned to Ukraine. Iran is a member of the International Civil Aviation Organization and obligated by international law to follow the regulations for civil aviation safety. These include the preservation of the crash site and evidence. None of these regulations were observed by the Iranian government. The ICAO regulations also emphasize the independence of investigations. Chapter 3 of Annex 13 stipulates, "A state shall establish an accident investigation authority that is independent from the state aviation authorities and other entities that could interfere with the conduct or objectivity of an investigation." The Aircraft Accident Investigation Board of Iran is not independent. It is under the direct control of the Ministry of Transportation that is influenced by the IRGC. The ICAO published a report in 2010 that highlighted major deficiencies in the Iranian civil aviation industry. In 2020, an Islamic Republic parliamentary committee that was investigating another domestic aircraft incident concluded that the Aircraft Accident Investigation Board of Iran is not acting independently and without political influence. Many critical trading ports and all Iranian airport security is exclusively controlled by the IRGC. As of this date, the ICAO has failed to uphold its own regulations under the guise of neutrality and respecting sovereignty of member states. Iran's failure to follow the guidelines of Annex 13 has not yet been formally addressed by the ICAO, the very body that is responsible for international civil aviation safety. Nearly a year has passed, and the Iranian government has failed to publish its investigations into a flight that lasted only 3 minutes before being shot down. How can anyone expect the Iranian government to fairly investigate a crime that has been committed by their own most powerful military establishment? The Islamic Republic of Iran released 5 reports over the past 10 months. According to their counterparts from Canada and the Ukraine, not only do those reports lack any substantial evidence or answers to key questions, but they also lead to more questions that must be answered. So far, the Iranian government produced several narratives, mostly through state media. First, they insisted that PS-752 crashed by accident due to technical failures in the aircraft. Next, theories of foul play and espionage were leaked through unofficial channels. Finally, after admitting that PS-752 was shot down by the IRGC, the Iranian government blamed it on human error. Then they claimed that the missile battery radars were misaligned by 107 degrees. In an interview published early November this year, Ukraine's Deputy Prosecutor General expressed major reservations in Iran's handling of the investigations into the downing of Flight PS-752. Ukrainian officials are frustrated by Iran's lack of cooperation and commitment to the truth. The Deputy Prosecutor General of Ukraine declared that there is every reason to doubt that PS-752 was shot down by mistake. After the failure of other explanations to divert attention from the facts, a new narrative is percolating from Iranian government agencies. Now they talk about systemic failure. Let us examine the possibility of systemic failure in Iran's capital city air defense apparatus. How would a rogue missile battery be stationed so close to Tehran's international airport without coordination with the chain of command? Why would mobile missiles be stationed at this critical location if it were not part of a preconceived military strategy? If military tensions were so high that such extraordinary measures needed to be taken, why was the airspace left open? In any military, let alone the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, nothing happens without going through a chain of command. And contrary to conventional norms, the IRGC chain of command is concentrated on a few individuals directly linked to the supreme leader. Someone must have decided to dispatch a mobile missile battery, and there must have been a reason for this decision. Someone must have ordered the crash site to be cleared so hastily and without following procedure. The victims' families continue to mourn their loss without closure. Without impartial investigations, they have no hope for justice. The Iranian government will soon claim that the downing of PS-752 was due to systemic failures of an inefficient and inept system. What do you think?